Good evening. For those who have not been attending this whole time, I am Pastor J.D. Jackson, Jr. I'm the pastor here at United Church of Pittsford, and I want to personally welcome you here tonight and to the Pittsford Community Series, Martin Luther King series, which was started by Kevin Beckford 6 years ago, who's here with us tonight. This is our second year hosting at United Church of Pittsford, and we plan to do it forever. Yeah, that can get a hand. Okay. All right. We have some sponsors who have provided the means for us to have this event tonight. And of course, this being a church, we give you an opportunity to also contribute. We will have a free will offering in between the films that you see tonight. So the tray will be passed, and you can feel free to give generously. But our other sponsors, we have Rochester Regional Health, the Highlands of Pittsford, Rock Growth, Human Rights Campaign, the Human Rights Campaign, ESL. General sponsors were Enchanted Cabin Soaps, Howard Mafucci, Nahoko, Kawaku, Ralph Carter, Assembly Member Jen Lunsford, Alyssa Plummer, Pittsford Town Board Member Kathy Koshikar, who just walked in. Hi, Kathy. Samara Massage, Kim Taylor, Wegmans, Deepika Singh, Naveen and Kate Havenar, Kevin Spencer Beckford, the Fazili Firm, Stephanie Townsend, Chiron Sattler LeBlanc, and Jennifer Canning. Individual donors, Rose Erickson, Tosh Smith, Katrina Levan, Victoria Love, Dorothy Bouch Barker. Okay, so we can give them a hand as well. Okay. And tonight, I have the pleasure of presenting our featured guest. But before, I want to let you know that on Sunday, we have our closeout, which will be here at 3 o'clock. It'll be an interfaith service with a number of clergy from Pittsford community as well as beyond participating. So please come out on Sunday at 3 o'clock, and you'll be out before. There's no big game on Sunday. So, you'll be out before whatever you do when there's no big game. So please come out and celebrate the closeout with us. But tonight, we'll get to the object at hand, or the featured guest at hand, Rashaad Parker. So, Rashaad, come forward.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it, for braving the weather and coming out here to see the films that I wrote, produced, and directed. A little bit about myself. I am a SUNY Brockport College graduate. I got my bachelor's degree in communications and Afro-African American studies from SUNY Brockport. And then I had the crazy idea that I would go and get my master's degree too at the same institution, continuing on with communications. Now, the thing with communications in undergrad, it was so fun. We got to produce television shows and radio broadcasts and do reel-to-reel. Remember those? Remember reel-to-reel? Remember splicing the tape together? That was fun. But then at the graduate level, it was all qualitative and quantitative study. No, didn't want to do that, as a matter of fact. And so I had the wherewithal, because I was still already matriculated, to take some electives at Visual Studies Workshop, where Carvin Eisen was a graduate who was one of my professors as an undergrad and introduced me to the art of filmmaking, specifically documentary filmmaking, with the film July 64, which we had advanced screening of that before it was actually released as his students. And I just remember being transfixed about the history of Rochester being, you know, a hub for being abolitionists and things of that nature, and, you know, human rights and rights for women to vote, and, you know, all of the things that Rochester represents, I felt, you know, just akin to, really. And so I produced a film with my electives at VSW and used that very film to apply for the college. What are they going to do, tell me no? I produced it here. So, and that's how I got into graduate school, as a matter of fact. Fun fact about me, I made a film, by the way, specifically about growing up for a part of my childhood on Evergreen Street in Clinton, which is right next door to St. Michael's, that, you know, Roman Gothic church there. I used to play in that church as a kid. So it's very interesting to me that, you know, I've kind of come full circle with even showing my work inside of a church, because truly I have some deep roots inside of the church as a kid, because I was a latchkey kid. And so St. Michael's was my playground and my babysitter. And that was the title of the film, as a matter of fact. And I did that film on 16mm film, so it didn't require, you know, any electricity. I was able to just wind up the film and shoot. And that was an incredible experience, and that brings me all the way up to now. So the first film that you will see is called Black Lives Matter, A Sanctuary for Daniel Prude. And so we all know what happened in Rochester concerning Mr. Prude and his untimely death at the hand of RPD, I will say, and all of the other systems that failed him, unfortunately. What happened for me was life-changing. When I saw that video in my 4-story apartment on University Avenue, directly across the street from the Memorial Art Gallery, I'm sitting in my living room, dining room, kitchen, bedroom, right, because I just had a studio. So yeah, I'm sitting there. And I saw that video, and something changed inside of me. I was no longer the previous version of Rashaad after watching that video. I absolutely changed in that moment. And so I grabbed my camera, and I ran down 4 flights of stairs. I turned my camera on, and I didn't turn it off for about 10 days. Just out there on the front lines, recording what I saw. No longer being an observer, but now graduating to participant. It was very important for me to do as a young black man myself, and, you know, always faced with the threat of maybe not making it home in terms of having any engagement with the police, whether it be here in Rochester or anywhere. And so that is how I became, I guess, a quasi-activist. Because I was very intentional about continuing the work, continuing the narrative, continuing to be out there, even in putting myself in harm's way. That didn't matter to me as much as it was for me to capture the story that I was witnessing. Okay? So first film is about 18 minutes. Again, it is called Black Lives Matter, A Sanctuary for Daniel Prude. After we have watched this film, we will take a moment to really just pause and reflect for a moment. And I guess we'll do the offering at that time, and then we will come back and play the second film, Rock City Speaks, which was an extension of me being out there on the front lines and doing filmmaking. And then now I wanted to have it be a situation where people from the street can provide their perspective as to what was happening. It's very important for, you know, to give voice of the people, and so that is how Rock City Speaks was birthed thereafter. Okay? Thank you all for coming again.
Hey, get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Several Rochester police officers arrived at the scene. Prude's brother called 911, worried that his brother was having a mental breakdown. The video shows Prude followed police orders.
Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. Yes, don't move.
When they handcuffed him, you could see blood on his wrist. Police say Prude smashed windows on Jefferson Avenue before police arrived. On the video, police say Prude said he had coronavirus and he was spitting, so police put a spit bag over his head. 3 minutes later, Prude stops moving.
Roll him over on the side.
Then the EMTs are called in.
Does he have a pulse?
Oh, no.
Start CPR.
Prude was put in an ambulance. His brother says he was put on life support and died 7 days later.
You killed a defenseless black man, a father's son, a brother's brother, a nephew's uncle. If you want to know the truth, the video footage gonna show the truth.
Prude's family's lawyers were asked what people will see when they watch the body cam video.
They're going to see a murder. That's what they're going to see.
Said I love the lie, lie the love, hanging on with push and shove. Possession is the motivation, hanging up the whole damn nation. Looks like we always end up in a rut, trying to make it real. But compared to what? Bought a house, is killing all. Twisted children are killing frogs. Poor dumb rednecks rolling logs. Tired old ladies are kissing dogs. And I hate that human love, but that stinking mud. Try to make it real.
This is the Rochester Police Department. This assembly has been deemed unlawful. We're hereby ordered to disperse from the roadway immediately.
Said we're chicken feathers, all like one gun.
You're hereby ordered to disperse. Vehicles on Exchange Boulevard. Remove your vehicles from the roadway or you will be subject to arrest. Yellow face mask, disperse immediately or you'll be subject to arrest.
You will be subject to shutting the fuck up!
It's a modern day civil rights movement. You know, if you're not going to stand for anything, you'll lie for anything. But, you know, I'm just out here to show, you know, my family, my son, my daughter, you know, that I'm willing to die for my grandkids to be able to live a life where they don't have to worry about the color of their skin and they can't do certain things or have certain liberties like everybody else who's an American citizen. You know, this is supposed to be the United States of America, and we're not united at all. So I'm out here, you know, pushing that forward, you know what I mean? We always have a group text amongst our friends. Every one of us stay vigilant. We all, you know, we all support the movement. We're active members of the movement. We're active members in the community. We're positive parents. We also vote. We also encourage others to vote to make a difference and a change in the environment that we live in. My name is Andy Rose, AKA Black Rose, AKA Raggedy Andy, and Black Lives Matter.
You know, I want to be on the right side of history. So, you know, when we're in a movement that's promoting change and really listening to the voice of the youth and making sure that black voices are being heard and, you know, systematic racism is being addressed, and, you know, this is part of change. So I want to be on the right side of that. You know, I don't want to be, look back in history and say that, you know, I was not part of this movement. You know, we all too many times hear people say, you know, well, if I was a slave, I wouldn't have, or if I was in the 60s, I would have, but where are you now? You know, what are you doing actively to make sure that change happens for our kids, for our community, and for our future? I think that, you know, we look at systemic racism and only look at it from the angle of police relations in the community. But it affects us in every aspect of life, whether it's medical, education. You know, someone is working in HR that has some bias, and they're doing your evaluation. So we're affected by, you know, whether we want to believe it or not, we're affected by systematic racism every day. My name is Eric Rose. I'm from Rochester, New York, and Black Lives Matter.
I have 2 black boys who will one day be 2 black amazing men. So for me, this is so much bigger than, the music is cool, all that's cool, but I need them to understand how amazing they are, and I need America to realize how amazing they are. Beyond their beautiful melanated skin, beyond their talents, beyond their creativity, they're just amazing beings. And the fact that it's okay to kill black men, more specifically, doesn't sit well with me. So it was no way I wasn't gonna be out here. This is about my boys. My name is Miss Kelly E. from Rochester, New York. Black Lives Matter.
I was appalled. I wasn't shocked. I was hurt. And being the fact that I'm an educator, I work with young black men every day. I'm a dean of students at a charter school. I felt it was my responsibility as a black man to say something, do something, because this is, it's like every week something is happening. It's like, it's ridiculous. So I just feel as though that in my anger, I decided to do something positive. So instead of just being mad and just complaining, I decided to come out and do something, support, do something. My name is Chris Sumner from Rochester, New York, and Black Lives Matter.
So I've been protesting on and off as much as I could. I'm a student at Nazareth College, so it's been tough. Like, I don't have a car, so it's hard to get down to these protests, but every time I can, I'm here. And I have a lot of friends who protest regularly. And my experience has been that we are totally peaceful. All we do is sing and chant and gather, and there's nothing but love here. And when we're met by police, they're meeting us with tear gas and with the intent to harm and scare us and stop us. And, you know, like, you grow up, you're told you have the right to peacefully protest. You learn that shit in school. And what's going on now? We're being punished for peaceful protesting, for standing up for what's right. That's not okay. What is unlawful? The police are trying to say we're unlawful. What is unlawful is the murder of Daniel Prude and everything that's happened to black people for centuries. And I really feel that as a white person, if you're not taking action, you're on the wrong side of history, and you have to choose a side. You have to fight because it's your responsibility. White people have benefited from the privilege that has harmed black people for centuries, and that's not okay. My name is Amelia Snyder. I'm from Irondequoit, a suburb of Rochester, New York, and Black Lives Matter.
It's important for me because of my black son, because of my black brothers, because of my black students, because the fact that if this happened to anyone else, I would be out here. If it happened to someone that I actually knew personally, I would be out here, and we would be turning it up for them as well. Me and other people have had conversations about how the media skews a lot of information, and we've been seeing that more and more. Specifically with the death of Daniel Prude, they hid this for over 5 months. This happened in March. We just found out in the beginning of September. So it's important to get a firsthand perspective so that he is not lied to. He isn't susceptible to just believing whatever anybody puts in front of him. I never really had a good relationship with police officers because I grew up in the inner city of Rochester, New York, where police brutality was normal. Like, it happened a lot. It happened to me. It happened to my family members. There's been plenty of times where I've been stopped by police officers and maybe a tail light is out or whatever the case is, maybe no reason at all, and it's 6 cop cars for that, or guns pointed at me because you said that my tent was too dark, and just things like that that continue to happen in this community that hopefully, because of the noise that we make, will bring about some type of change. My name is Phil Hounshaw. I'm from Rochester, New York, and Black Lives Matter.
Say his name. Say his name.
Let me hear it. We on the freedom side. Let me hear it.
Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Get your foot off our necks and give us our respect. Get your foot off our necks and give us our respect. Get your foot off our necks and give us our respect. What's his name? Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name.
Nothing should break this damn line. Nothing should break this line. Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter! Keep on walking. Keep on walking. Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! We shut it down! We shut it down!
I've been trying to get hold of you for years on the homeless problem. You is nothing but a damn goat. Okay. Leave us the hell alone. Get the fuck out of that office.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love. We must love. We must love. We must love. And support each other. And support each other. We have nothing to lose. 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 For our shame. For our shame. Our shame. Our shame.
The street is taken up. Look at what y'all are here doing. I know we just mentioned this on Jefferson, but it's grown so much. Like, this is our power. This is us standing in our power right now. This is us making the change that we want to see. This is us being the change we want to see in the world right now.
The road is long, with many a winding turn. That leads us to who knows where. Who knows where? But I am strong enough to carry him. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. So on we go. His welfare is my concern. No burden is he to bear. We'll get there. For I know he will not encumber me. ain't heavy. He's my brother. If I'm laden at all, I'm laden with sadness that everyone's heart is not filled with gladness of love for one another. Thank you, Lord. He said it's alone. I said it's alone. Hey, it's a long, hard road from which there is no return. While we're on our way to there, why not share? And the load doesn't weigh me down at all. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. He's my brother. Yes, he is. He ain't heavy. He ain't heavy.
Black Lives Matter. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. You can imagine, for me, watching that back, it brings back so many visceral responses. I look out into the audience and I see some of you who made it into this work because you were there too. And I may not have ever had the opportunity to do this before, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you. Thank you for teaching me what allyship looks like. Thank you for triaging me back to health, because what you didn't see is like one of those first nights that I had my camera was the night that we were at the public safety building and they set the cars on fire and it got crazy. And the police met us with umbrellas and clothes laundry hampers with military artillery. When they shot expired tear gas at us, when people got shot at rubber bullets, but still, like, just the panic of that. You know, the firecrackers that had gone off and incited almost a, stampede. I was there that night. And on that night, I literally dropped down to my knees because I had never been exposed to tear gas before, let alone expired tear gas. And I became ill right then and there. Okay? I dropped down to my knees in front of this public safety building. And I was in a bad way, y'all. And somebody saw me. And they came over, 3 white women came over to me and triaged me back to health right then and there. They had the milk, they had the water, they had the towels, they had the first aid kit. They had it all in a shopping cart with makeshift Red Cross symbols, right? But man, the demonstration of community that I saw in Rochester was life-changing. I need to tell y'all that. It got me thinking differently about myself, about my community, about people who didn't look like me, right? Not everybody's the same. Not everybody, wants to see what happened to Daniel Prude continue to happen. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? This is a time where all of us really must choose. We can no longer vacillate the in-between, right? Either you are or you ain't, honestly. And so, thank you, Rochester community. Tonight, I would like for us to participate in an exercise. I have done this before. I'm not using you as guinea pigs, I promise. I have done this before, where I have asked audience members to write down, well, what does it mean to be an ally in your own words? I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to read what you write in regards to what allyship really means to you. Because God knows we all need to be each other's allies. We really do. And now more than ever, I would say. And it's interesting how history seems to repeat itself. Like some of you all are, have lived through this already, right? But now that it's come to my generation, and by the way, Daniel Prude was murdered on Jefferson Avenue and McCree Way. But back then it was called, when I was a kid, it was called Bronson Avenue. That was my block. That happened in my neighborhood, in front of a church. And so the film is called Black Lives Matter, a sanctuary for Daniel Prude, because Daniel Prude did not get sanctuary in Rochester, as a matter of fact. And I got to tell you all that the title of the film just breathed on me. It came to me almost like a prophecy, the way God was instructing me during this time. Because I was a one-man show. This happened as a result of many hands, but at that time, it was just me out there alone. But God was with me. He really was. And He kept me. He held me close. And He's holding me now as I stand here in front of all of you. So I'm going to pass the mic over to the shepherd of this house for the offering piece, as well as the allyship piece. If you guys can begin to write, that's fine. And then we will play Rock City Speaks, episode 1, which is a response to what happened to Mr. Prude from the lens of more community members, young people included. You'll see that although I did not necessarily curate this group of people, these were the people that were willing to talk to me, and it just so happened to be this perfect curation of, many generations represented. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Charlie and Linda are coming forth with the trays, and like I said, give generously. This goes to Pittsford community, so we can continue to do this series. We hope for even bigger and better things in 2026. So. And for those online, I don't know if we can put up a QR code. We have that?
And can they type in the chat, allyship?
Sure. I don't know. Hey, Scott, can they type in the chat? Allyship? In the chat? Online. Or no? No, I don't have access to the... Okay. And for folks online, the QR code is coming up.
Point of reference, actually, to if you were out there before, what does it look like now, right? Because that was 5 years ago, and those of you who were there, you know what that felt like, you know what that meant to you. And so you can take the approach of just kind of mentioning what that was to be in that moment at the time, but you can also expand upon that and say, well, what does that mean now? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the QR code is up for anybody who needs it, and I think you can do it right here too. So.
While you guys are writing, I want to share a story. So I've been in communications with Joe Prude, and initially you can see, like, I'm filming, but like from a distance. I'm giving Joe Prude his space. I'm not trying to infiltrate at all. I felt very much so the need to respect his space, which I felt like was sacred, honestly. And he saw me out there or whatever, but I did not press myself on Joe. I didn't. I waited a while. And when I did, I came to him as humbly as I possibly knew how. I really did. Because I'm a brother. In fact, I got 3 brothers. It's all boys. I have 1 sister, but I'm just saying, like, you know, like we're steps to each other. I have 1 sister I love very much. Yes. And so I wanted to respect his space. When we finally started talking, he said, I was just waiting on you. And I was like, oh, wow. You know, he was waiting on me. And I said, oh, my God. Well, Joe, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I told him about, you know, the University of Rochester connection. By the way, this film is archived at the Department of Rare Books and Special Collections at the University of Rochester, and it will be available for all time. That was very important to me, to be able to make it be accessible to folks, and it will be. We're working on a digital platform, and we plan to hopefully release that this year. So right now, it's just like kind of one-off showings and screenings in this context, but I promise you it will be made available with closed caption, Annalise, going forward, okay? Amen. But yeah, Joe and I have developed like this brotherhood now. I've been to his house. I've interviewed him, which was a dream, by the way. I always wanted to interview Joe, but somebody else was always in his face. If it wasn't the news media, it was some other journalist or maybe some other filmmaker, and that's fine. I respect the craft, don't get me wrong. But I just was like, you know, just waiting for my time. And when it came, he saw my patience and my respect, and he invited me into his home. He invited me to his kitchen table. And there I sat, and we had a conversation just last year that we wouldn't have had in 2020, you see. And so we'll hear from Joe Prude in my next film, which is called Black Lives Matter, A Long Road to Justice in Rochester. And that will complete the series in my obligation to the work that I've done with the University of Rochester, okay? I also did another episode of Rock City Speaks, specifically from the college student perspective. We know that University of Rochester has a lot of students there who are, and I want to get the term right, you know, not native to America, but those who have come from other places, you know, who are now have sent their children to come and get this awesome education from the University of Rochester, which is all well and good, but what is their perspective to Black Lives Matter? They have these degrees of separation, as a matter of fact. They have almost this touched experience to Black Lives Matter, as a matter of fact. They're black like me, but because they're so insulated at the university, they really have like a standoffish approach to the whole thing, right? And it was very interesting for me to like discover that in real time from them, but still respecting their position because, I mean, you know, that's their experience, right? But it was very interesting to get that narrative from them, right? But I pushed back though, right? I didn't just let it fly with, oh, well, I don't really know. Well, I need you to know. I need you to know that this is happening to people that look like you, whether you are conscious of it or not, but you really are. You see what's happening. And don't think for a second that because you live this insulated experience that it can't happen to you, because it could, as a matter of fact. And so I had to be that voice in that time. Most of the time, like when I'm filmmaking and things of that nature, I kind of just, obviously I craft what I want people to answer, but I don't dictate what the narrative is going to be. I let people speak freely as to what it is, but in this instance, I felt like I needed to give a little bit of pushback and really, really draw out, well, why do you feel this way? What's happening with you? And how can you become an ally, as a matter of fact? Because it is equally incumbent upon you as it is to those people who don't look like you. Okay? So now that we've had a moment to write down what allyship looks like or sounds like or maybe even feels like, is there anybody here who wants to share out? All right, I'm coming to you.
Thanks for doing this. Allyship is the first step to accomplishship. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thanks for doing this. Right here? All right. Hi, Scott. Do the little dance over here. All right. Allyship is the first step to accomplishship. Every single person in this room can be an accomplice. You are an accomplice if you are an ally. It's like graduation day. It is our responsibility as members of the privileged class to be the change, live by example, be unapologetic about showing up, turn out, invite a friend, and bring those who don't look like you up in leadership. The resources are there. It is time to distribute them fairly. Reparations is overdue. I am a German-Canadian mother of 2 young American daughters. One has a disability. The other one is struggling with mental health issues. Black men are not allowed to have mental health issues in this society. Say his name, Daniel Prude, all of them. Thanks for putting me in the film. I was one of the people laying on the ground on my 47th birthday at the Trans Black Lives Matter rally, because that is where I wanted to be. I was estranged from my parents at the time. I am now estranged from my parents again because they don't want to hear what I have to say. So we have to make really tough choices in this life. We have the money, we have the power, and we have the vote. So I'm going to wrap this up because JD and Kevin are really, really close personal friends of mine, and other people that I see here that were also at these rallies. Pastor Marlo Washington was a great leader. He is now in a position of power where he should be. He had also had to suffer with everybody else, the hail of bullets, and suffer with the expired cans of whatever they were throwing at y'all. So I'm glad that people turned out, and I'm glad that you guys all showed up today. Next time, bring a friend, bring those who don't look like you up in leadership, and give the resources of time, talent, and treasure freely and without judgment. And no fear. There is no need to be afraid. There is no need to walk on the other side of the street. There is no need to not rent that apartment to somebody. And when my neighbors say, you are just exactly the person that we wanted to buy that house, they've seen nothing yet. Love is universal, and love trumps hate.
Let's give it up for Danny. That was great to hear, really, and witness, truly. Anybody else? Anybody else? Please come on up. And do you guys mind if I collect these? Can I archive these as well? Okay. Yeah, because it's going down in history, I'm telling you. All right.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say, you know, some of us were a part of it. Denny was the elders that stood out that day. You saw me up there with the late Reverend Stewart, UCLM. Frank was a part of that. What I wrote down about allyship, and I asked you the question, we were there, so what would you add or have us say differently? And I wrote down, still making myself available. It never ends. It never ends, especially now. To be ready to respond to the need, whatever the cause. And then I ended it with, a preacher told me once this, and I lived to find out the truth of it. Sometimes you don't understand why you go to certain things, but just show up. There's a thing called the ministry of presence. You don't have to say nothing, just show up. You never know what doors open, who sees you, and who might open the door for you.
Thank you. What's your name? What's your name?
Reverend Cunningham.
Reverend Cunningham. Amen. Let's give it up for her. Whew. Anybody else? I see some familiar faces in the audience. Please come up. Please, please, please.
I had to run out and run an errand, so I missed that the first movie. But the meaning of allyship. I did not go to the protest. And traditionally, I think of myself as being a fraidy cat. So I have had my own dealings with hostility and so forth, and I get triggered by it. But I gotta figure that out, and I gotta do better. This is what I wrote down. It says my goal is to be present when there are known or anticipated need for support to right wrongs in the community, or to support changes, especially changes in laws or policies which have been identified or prioritized by the black community. And I would say black and brown, because the doctrine of discovery I have discovered is part of the reason why indigenous people in this country, you know, all kinds of stuff, and it's all interconnected in many different ways. But laws or policies which have been identified or prioritized by the black community, black and brown, where my presence or voice is welcomed. Because remember, as those of us who are not black or brown, privilege, for those of us who are white especially, privilege is like an ATM which can be drawn upon anytime and always, because that privilege in the ATM is always there and available. The question is, how are we going to use it to make a difference?
Thank you. Tell me your name.
Ralph Carter.
Ralph Carter. Let's give it up for Ralph Carter. Thank you. Thank you. I acknowledge my fellow filmmaker, Jackie McGriff, in the house. Indeed. Anybody else, please, please. I have to say, I was hoping you came up.
Well, Rashaad, I've got a really delightful story to tell you. Awesome. A group of 12 people, 13 people from Church of the Assumption in Fairport, a lily white community. There's maybe 20 blacks in the whole place. Went down to St. Michael's, your church, and fed 500 people Saturday. Oh, wow. It's happening every Saturday. Wow. Breakfast and dinner. And they loved every minute of it. Yeah. So what I wrote was, I don't know if I can read it, a meaning of allyship. I have been, and I want to continue, showing up, supporting, listening, emailing many others of every one of these events, like this one, but more. And I started to do that back when Martin Luther King was killed. Yeah. And I've been doing it ever since. And signing lots of petitions and writing letters to people who I perceive as having some measure of power. And presenting Black Lives Matter films, speakers, to interfaith and ecumenical and collaboratives of faith communities and individual congregations. For instance, February 23rd, we're going to do lunch at 12:30, and Reverend William Reverend Dr. William Wilkinson, who is a black pastor of Medina Presbyterian Church, will speak on black history. He's really good on it. He is a scholar and a communicator par excellence. So I invite you all to come for lunch to Church of the Assumption. You just go over the railroad tracks as you go along the main street in Fairport. Turn right when you see the Village Inn on your left, and that's Macedon Center Road, and it's also High Street, and then you'll see the sign for Assumption, and pull in. The address of it is 20 East Avenue, so that's the next street, but the parking lot runs the whole block, and comes straight in the connecting unit that connects the church with what looks like a house, which is now the ministry center. So just walk straight in. But call me, and I don't know, call the church office and say you're coming so that we have enough lunch. Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So, your name? Your name?
Denny Mack.
All right, let's give it up for Danny Mack. That was great. Please, Nick. You saw Nick Wilt also in the film in that opening montage.
Hey, my name is Nicholas Wilt. And I don't know, this is a little meta, but a lot of white folks have taken the microphone tonight, and I have mixed feelings about that. Because on the one hand, you don't want to put people of color on the spot, and on the other, you want to make them feel welcome and heard. And the first thing I wrote down for Rashaad was self-silencing. So there's a contradiction in my taking the microphone. I asked Robin if she was going to speak tonight, and she said no. Sorry, guys. And she has no idea what I was going to say. I'm Robin's husband of 30 years in September, Robin Wilt. And if you had told me in September 1995 that we would be going through what we are going through now, honestly, I would not have believed you. Because I subscribed, as many of us do, in a model of steady progression. And what's become obvious is that not only is there a need to continually strive, but that there are countervailing forces that are constantly engaged in opposition of a nature that you couldn't even imagine. Hypocrisies that are beyond anything you could have imagined people visiting on you. So my focus has been in political activism for 20 years or so. And the way that I embrace allyship is not just through self-silencing, that's a tactic. It's through exercising your followership skills. What I mean by that is, when there are people of color, black people, leading, you're not going to do the right thing if you do what comes naturally. You have to lean into the idea that you need to follow them. Even if you don't fully understand why they're asking you to do the stuff that they're asking you to do. And the Black Lives Matter protests were a great exercise in that, because as far as I don't know, white people were allowed into the planning meetings. You'd show up, you have no idea what you're going to do. They tell you where to go, and you would just go. And there were protests that were so long that they occupied the entire street for like 5 blocks long. So there would be chants at the front of the protest and chants at the back. You're not picking who's chanting what. But for political stuff, followership means if there are black people willing to put their heads above the trench and risk everything that it takes to take the helm in political leadership in this county, where we have a city and a county that are both named for slave owners. Shout out to Kevin Beckford. I walked for him, again with Robin's permission, because Robin was uncontested when she was running for election for her first time in 2017. But Kevin was trying to be one of the first Democratic representatives in, I think, history in Pittsford. And he is still the first African American to represent this town. So, and we've seen egregious examples of a failure to embrace followership in that context. The elementary school that I went to when I moved to Pittsford, Park Road Elementary, had a scandal where the students, to celebrate Black History Month, they had done projects, and they put little essays on accomplished African Americans of history with pictures. I don't know how they managed this, but of white people next to the names of the accomplished African Americans of history. And a black parent noticed this. These things were up on the walls for weeks before a black parent noticed and brought it to the administration's attention. And Kevin gave a quote to the press and said something like, if there were more black people amongst the teachers and the administrators in the Pittsford Central School System, I think maybe this wouldn't have happened. And later that same day, Superintendent Mike Pirro publicly contradicted the first African American elected official in this town. That is a failure to exercise your followership skills. How dare you? And as far as I can tell, Rochester, New York is the world capital of smile to your face and stab you in the back. So followership doesn't mean just following black people who've self-selected to lead. It also means cultivating and developing leadership of black people. And I've done that also in the political realm, because let me tell you, if someone who's been serving the community in a certain way, and I never am the front line, always it's people who are in the community, you know, sort of bring to your attention people who potentially could be leaders in the community. Or they self-select. Stanley Martin is in the film. Stanley Martin is now a Rochester City Council member. But there's a phase in that process. Yes. Yes. And so is Robin, by the way, representing the town of Brighton. And you know, there is a phase of talking people through maybe the imposter syndrome. And I think there's an art to offering the support that they need to step into those leadership roles where you know that they're going to excel. And, you know, there is an art to it, but I think the main takeaway for would-be allies is to just always, always remember, I've been married to a black woman for 30 years. And all it does is give me a daily reminder of the privilege that I carry in this world, and the importance of continued work in service to that goal of a more just and equitable society that we want in the future, which hasn't been moving along in the last 30 years in the ways that I would love. So exercise your followership skills. And thank you, Rashaad, for leading and creating this wonderful film.
Thank you. Thank you, Nate. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. We have time for one or two more. So if you got a hankering to come up here, please be next, okay?
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Mary Kate Lamb. I'm a white woman with a mixed race sister. So this issue is extremely important to me. I'm a member of Spiritus Christi, and we have Spark. Have they seen the film?
That hopefully will be next. I am going to be talking to
Myra
Brown as well.
Okay, great. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And again, guys, please, if you don't mind, I would definitely like to collect these. Even if you didn't share out, I would like to have these. I would like to archive them. Please, please. Anybody else before we move on to the second film? Please. I'm so glad you came up. Thank you. Really.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dadaha, President of Pittsburgh Community, and I want to thank everyone for coming to this event. We've had 5 this time, so it's good to see the dedication. So allyship. So I wasn't at the protest. I was actually working as a therapist during this time, and so instead I was actually on the news through Rochester Regional Health. So I just want to point out that there's different ways to be an ally, right? So being in a protest isn't, I want it to be, but it isn't for everyone. So there are different ways of showing up and to being there. And as someone who's been attacked multiple times for being in front of different issues, it is good to have those allies that you can count on. So I actually want to take a moment to thank the allies that I have, that I count on, that are in this room right now. Jen Canning, Kathy Koshikar, Linda Beckford, Kathy Doyle, Annalise. When I need them, I know that they will be there and put themselves out there for me. And I know for some of them, it can be very uncomfortable in the positions that I ask them to be there for me. But they do. They go out of their comfort and they do it. And that's what you need as someone who is constantly in that light, being attacked. It's always great to have those people that you can, reach out to and say, hey, this is happening. I can't say it because I know people aren't going to listen to me. Can you say it because I know they'll listen to you? So I just want you to realize that too. And Nick, I love what you said about with Robin. I have this conversation with my husband all the time. Understanding that, being in an interracial marriage, it's what he knew and grew up, right, is completely different than what I see on a daily basis, and that's a conversation we have all the time. Is that, the privilege and the blindness and what he knew is completely different than what I have to live through every day. So I think, just understanding that, and for those of you that are here, thank you, because showing up is the first step. And, not to speak over, but to be there as a support.
Thank you so much. Really, I am encouraged tonight. I need you guys to know that. I am truly appreciative of this opportunity. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Pastor Jackson, also my brother. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. We are now going to move into the second film, Rock City Speaks. This is episode 1. We shot the pilot right after George Floyd. Again, all of these films will be made available online, hopefully this year in 2025. That is the goal. But this is the first episode that I completely, directed and wrote. And so, without further ado, Rock City Speaks. And this takes place, just so you guys know, at City Hall the night that we camped out in front of City Hall. It's that night. So if you guys were there, then you know a little bit about what's about to go down when we watch what we're going to watch, okay? All right, thank you, Scott.
How are you feeling?
I got a lot of mixed feelings. Like, I'm extremely frustrated, just based on being out like all summer and then finding out recently that there was like a murder in our town by the police. But also I'm feeling a little bit hopeful because a lot of things happened very quickly. From my understanding and from the words of the family, Daniel Prude was not well. It's possible he consumed a drug. It's also possible that he didn't realize that he consumed that drug. He was a danger to himself, and his brother knew that, so he called 911 to get help for him. The hospital discharged him, within a couple of hours, and he was still going through his psychotic episode. So we called again. He begged to the police to not kill his brother, but instead, when they saw him walking down the street with no clothes on, they restrained him, they put a spit hood on him, they let him essentially pass out and go brain dead, and he passed away. And everyone that was called to that scene is responsible. And instead of being honest about it, we didn't hear about this until 6 months later. It's September, and that's when we heard about it.
I think part of me is frustrated that it is taking us this much effort and this much time for our officials to do something that they should have known to do much sooner. So it's a little disheartening to know that they're still dragging their feet and really not knowing, what their motivation behind them dragging their feet is. That's frustrating. But I also feel hopeful just at the sense of community that has come together and really pushing for real results, real justice, and, you know, real solutions for our community.
What does public safety mean to you?
So it's uplifting communities. It's not about punishing people who have fallen victim to lack of funding, lack of education, because people who lash out do it for a reason. No one does things for no reason. You have to make sure that people have the resources to succeed in the first place.
I think we think of safety just in terms of violence. And, you know, the reality is, you know, the majority of the crimes in our community really aren't violent crimes. You know, I think people are seeking, you know, mental and emotional help. I think people just need food and, you know, and proper education. So I think public safety, when you think about it, making sure that we're all good, is making sure that we're actually addressing the needs of the community. Because when you neglect the needs, you see negative results.
You need to reallocate those resources that are, like, all this money that's being funded into the police now. Like, when we say defund, we don't mean, like, you know, everything stops tomorrow. It's just take those resources and spread them out so that you're including more people who can help with different issues. So if there's a mental health crisis, someone calls, you don't send someone who's combat trained necessarily. You send someone who knows how to deal with a mental health crisis.
The way that police are trained in this country, and specifically in Rochester, they are trained to think of everyone as a suspect. I have the real fear that I may be considered a suspect, no matter what. Like, I've been held up, like, by police since I was 14. I've been slammed to the ground while going to school because I didn't hear them say freeze. I've had, like, a gun pointed at me in the backseat of a car because the police thought that we stole the car when it was really my friend's parents' car. I've been stopped for stabbing someone that I didn't stab, like, and then sometimes I was just stopped because they thought that I looked suspicious in some way. Like, there wasn't really a reason. It was like just kind of like a bullying tactic.
It's taken too long, but I think that myself, as well as many other people now, realize the importance of learning more. And also learning, like, I grew up in a pretty bougie little suburb in Westchester, and there was a lot that I didn't know. Realizing that certain things that I'd been taught, for example, about the civil rights movement, just were so whitewashed and so it's PG. So it's figuring out what you don't know, making an effort to educate yourself, share that, and tell people why.
What role do police play in public safety?
You know, I think officers are great at directing traffic, so they can keep doing that. Yeah.
I'm really thankful for the vibe tonight and the atmosphere. You know, it's really, people are just coming together, and there's you know, many nights where there's a lot of tension with the police officers acting the way they've been acting. And tonight is just more communal and, you know, people connecting, and it's beautiful.
I just feel so cared for in this movement right here that we're at City Hall, where a lot of my physical needs are being met, mental needs are being met, emotional needs are being met, spiritual needs are being met, creative needs are being met. There's so much art going on. So all Black Lives Matter for me my well-being is tied into it as well.
I'm feeling like I'm holding my breath until the arrests are made. You know, I feel like this tension, I feel like I can't focus on anything else right now until we get justice in the form of arrests.
I've been out here for 14 days now, so every single day. I started off coming with a cousin of mine. She came again 2 or 3 times with me, but then I started finding myself coming by myself. And then probably towards like the 10th day, I kind of broke down. You know what I'm saying? Quietly alone, but I also broke down in the middle of a protest, like when we were at the public safety building, because I felt hurt. You know, I felt hurt not only for myself, but for the person next to me. You know what I'm saying? And a person I didn't even know, and what we're going through. But because we're together and we're fighting together, I still felt the love. Even through the hurt and pain, I felt the love.
Personally, I'm very angry. I'm very angry, especially because I saw the video and see how these cops handled him like that. To me, that breaks my heart. And I don't want to see stuff like that happening. Like, I want to, like, it's just too much going on. Like, for me, I'm sorry, this gets me so mad. Hold on one second. But, like, every time I think about George Floyd or people like Daniel Prude, like, it really breaks my heart simply because, like, every time I'm walking down the road as a black man, I wonder, like, that could be me, you know what I mean? It could be anybody, my little sisters, anybody, anyone of color. Like, I shouldn't have to be a target because of my skin color, you know what I mean? And for that to have to live like that, I think it's terrible. I don't think no black person in America should have to live like that.
It's like we're living in a world where we're not recognized as being humans. It's like our ancestors have fought so long and so hard for us to have the basic human rights. And still today, we're still fighting for the same thing that our ancestors have fought forever for, and we still don't have it.
Why do you think that is?
Because the entire system of the United States was built on racism. It was built on hate of black people. There's no way to fix a system that was built wrong from the start. You have to tear the whole thing down and restart.
We find ourselves in a very unique time in history where we're dealing simultaneously with two pandemics, both a racial pandemic and a viral pandemic. How are you coping with that?
Cry, pray, talk to other people who feel the same way that I do. Growing up in a school, I went to Greece Athena, growing up in a school where it was mostly dominantly white, it's just like, you grow up with it. So a part of you, and it sucks to say this, a part of you is used to it, but then again, it's just that feeling like, why can't it just be fair? Why can't it just be equal?
It's hard. For a long time, I didn't want to go out to the protests. I was scared of Corona. My dad didn't want me to go to the protest. It took a lot for me to finally get up and say I want to go outside, because I've always wanted to go, but it was like more of my health, my siblings' health, my mother's health. So, you know, putting that before me. But now that I'm at school, it's like, okay, I can go to the protest. There's no one I'm going to get sick. It's just me to worry about now. So I can go out and I can protest. And although I'm vocal on social media, it's not the same as having the right to go out to the streets and be a voice and be a body in the streets.
When it comes to coping with situations like this, my number one thing is just to make sure you educate those that aren't educated about the situations that are going on now. If someone is saying something that doesn't make sense, that's the time to educate them, just like I have done in class. People say smart remarks. I don't sit here and get mad about it. Of course I'm infuriated, I am angry, but that's the time to educate that person, because a lot of people aren't educated, especially when it comes to the topic of racial injustices and stuff along the lines of that.
What role do police play in public safety?
Currently and historically, I think police have no role in public safety. I think they're designed to do very specifically what they do, which is protect property and property owners, specifically of white, middle, and upper class property owners.
Their job is to help make sure that things are in control when it comes to violence and things like that, not to kill innocent people. If I make a call because someone is on the street, and regardless of their mental state, they shouldn't be killed just because they're in any situation. They should be dealt with accordingly. There was a call that was made for Daniel Prude. He was killed for no reason.
I should be able to call the police and think, you know what, they're gonna come here and do their job. You know, I don't think every police officer is bad, but you don't know what situations you're gonna be in. And I think that's gonna be the major concern for every typical black person.
If I was going through a traumatic situation in the public, I would look to my peers in the community to help me. You know what I'm saying? I don't even feel comfortable looking to, I guess if you would say, like the authorities or the police department. You know what I'm saying? If I was to think about public safety, I would think about calling my community, calling my fellow peer to help me out.
If you had control of the city's budget, where would you spend the money?
Oh my God. City school district. I mean, is there any wonder that in this town where we have such a high level of poverty that we also have the worst city school district, one of the worst in the country? So I would definitely allocate funds there. Also allocating funds into the infrastructure of the area of the Crescent neighborhoods, putting money into there, building up black businesses, building up property, and giving money back to the community to see, okay, how are you gonna build up your own neighborhood, build up your own community? You know, that money is, like the people say, they need to be defunded and the people need a refund. You know, people are out here like having a difficult time. And so we're basically like funding our own terror, right, as people say.
Those resources would be allocated towards housing, towards education, towards health care, specifically mental health care, and not just the current organizations that provide mental health care and housing and resources supporting folks in the RCSD, but transforming those organizations as well, which are also grappling with white supremacy, and hire people from the suburbs to do mental health counseling with folks in the city who they know nothing about culturally.
I was in a shelter before, so I feel like sometimes funds to those, because they're obviously, they're not funded enough. Money for them, money for kids, the schooling, definitely the schooling.
We have so many community centers and so many rec centers in this city that are closed on Saturdays, closed on Sundays, closed on Fridays. This whole summer, I've been to a rec center twice due to it being closed. Now, I understand we have a pandemic, but still. Our black education and our black community and education-wise is failing. We can give $100 million to the police department, but we still have homeless people on the streets. We give $100 million to the police department, but we still have kids walking around here don't have a home to go to.
How would you encourage more of your peers to join the Black Lives Matter movement?
For more white people to be part of this Black Lives Matter movement, I feel like the white people that already are need to learn themselves how to have a stamina to talk with their family, their neighbors, their coworkers. And to do that, from what I've been understanding, black folks, people of color, indigenous folks telling white people, y'all need to stop getting hostile and upset and angry with people, and y'all need to stop being silent and putting your head in the sand. We need you to build up a stamina to call your white peers in and not call them out when they're not harming anybody, when there's no injustice being committed, when it's just white folks at the dinner table or in the workplace or in your neighborhood. You need to have the stamina to listen, to understand why they have those hateful and fearful things that a lot of the times the intent is not there, the impact is very much so, but where's the white person's trauma? It's coming from a history of white supremacy affecting them as well in a more privileged way, and white folks need to be able to build long-term relationships with other white people talking about racism.
For my peers, my fellow black people, my fellow African-American people, my fellow dark people, you can't sit back and speak on something if you're not coming out and doing something. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people was saying, oh, I see more white people than black people out here. And I turned to them and I said, well, you know what? If you're feeling some type of way, then you should be out here. You know what I'm saying? And then also, and not in no disrespect type of way, but I feel like I don't see a problem where it's more white people out here than, black people. Because, that's giving them a chance to see exactly what we're going through. They probably can't experience it in one night or even a week or 2 weeks, but they can sit here and be our backbone, you know what I'm saying? Be our shoulder to cry on, our shoulder to lean on, you know what I'm saying? So again, to my fellow peers, get out here.
it's a real thing that a lot of people feel like their oppression is a huge burden, and sometimes a lot of people feel like their voice is not going to be heard, and that's a real thing. So when you see a situation where you see a lot of black folks not involved in a certain thing, you got to understand that, you know, that comes from a subconscious of feeling like your voice is not being heard. But we could make an effort to change that.
My quote will be, come together, stand together, and fight. It's been too long, 400 plus years, where our people have been dealing with this, going through this slavery, oppression, education, whatever it may be. It's time that now, it's 2020 now. So it's really time that we come together and we stand together and we fight.
I feel like everybody should be more involved in the movement, you know? I feel like everybody should be involved in every movement, you know? And I feel like this is no different from, you know, the gay community movement. I feel like this is no different from the female movement. You know, everybody is equal, and this is America, you know? Everybody should walk around freely and be happy.
Well, for me, you know, as a black man, like, I feel like I belong here. Like, I belong to be out here. Like, for every black person who lost their life, like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to protest that. I'm here to show that I care. I'm here to show that I care for my community and my people as well. So that's why I'm here, and I hope that anyone listening to me takes this message into consideration as well, comes to the realization that black lives do matter.
Just this scene, just this picture, just the fact that everything that's going on here is just the way it is, the amount of people that's out here, all you gotta do is just take a quick, we all use social media, right? Take a quick video of everything that's going on here, and that's the statement itself.
Rock City Speaks. So thank you guys for coming here tonight. Again, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you braving the weather, maybe being away from your families for a bit, having a late dinner, or maybe having dinner early and having to rush out, whatever the case may be. Sorry, Scott. Whatever the case may be. Okay, cool. Yeah. You know, it's good to laugh. It's good to laugh. It's good to have joy, right? It's good to remember that we are all God's creation, and we need each other. Rock City Speaks, you know, if you noticed how some of the perspectives were polarizing in that piece, right? And again, I ask the questions, the people provide the answers, they give their feedback in real time, and that's what it is. But I'm always so intrigued by the conversation that happens in real time, because I don't know necessarily where it's going to go, but I'm always amazed at where it ends up and how comfortable people are with talking to me. You heard people like really talk freely with me. And so I thank God for that. I thank God for having, you know, this special acumen, if you will, for people who would be willing to have conversations with me on the fly, on the street. Y'all don't know me, you know what I mean? But they gave of themselves in that way to be vulnerable, if you will, or transparent, or just, you know, truthful, honest. This is what it is. This is how I feel. I'm a Rochesterian, and this is what I have to say. I want to speak to you, right? Very, very important work. I plan to continue this series. I plan on continuing. You know, I pray that, you know, I can get that Arts Prevail Fund grant again. That'd be great, right? You know, it ain't free. It takes a lot to produce this. It really does. You know, people need to get paid. Artists need to get paid. You know, equity is still a thing, right? Equity is very important. It really is. And again, I just thank Kevin Beckford, the United Church of Pittsford, Reverend Jackson, Annalise, Taraha. Hey, said it right. You know, and all of you, our ASL interpreters, Jabriel and Christopher, thank you guys. Truly, truly, it takes a village, right? It really takes a village. And if you don't mind, again, I would like to collect what you wrote. And please stay tuned for the film Black Lives Matter, A Long Road to Justice in Rochester. The tentative date for release and screening is February 19th at iZone at the University of Rochester Campus Library. So right on Library Road, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, we want to premiere this latest film, Black Lives Matter, A Long Road to Justice in Rochester. And I sure would appreciate your support in coming out, okay? That is my time in the Living the Dream King series. And again, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm feeling very emotional right now. Watching your two films really sort of took me back in time and just brought up a lot of emotions for me that the purpose of the series and why this started 6 years ago is very simple. After serving 4 years on the town board, and some of you have heard this before, and I apologize, but there's a little bit of a twist to it, I think, now that you haven't heard before. Linda and I had to endure quite a bit of not so nice stuff when I was on the town board. And I discovered something in the time I was on the town board. I decided not to run again because I realized that the things I was trying to fix, it really wasn't related to laws. It really was related to our heart. And there was a level of moral bankruptcy in Pittsford that we all live with every day. And if you walk the canal and walk down your street and look at the tree-lined streets and the well-manicured lawns, you could really miss it because that looks nice. I got one of those homes, right? But when you have people that when they look at you, they don't see you as fully human. If you're white, it's hard to understand what that means. My wife is white, and she's learned over time, but it's still hard for her because she can empathize with me because she sees what it does to me. But she gets to walk out, and the world sees her as fully human. That's the privilege of that. First of all, it's not a given, right? I think we feel like it is in America because you grew up with it. I grew up in the Caribbean where that wasn't even part of our culture. We saw each person as human. The people who visited our islands came down and ironically treated us well when they're out of America. Because I think somewhere deep down they realize we're human and you're human too. But when I get off the plane and come back to America, they get back into the old routine of thinking that this is normal. So this series, I turned 60 December 30th, and I spent all of last year reflecting on my 42 years of living in the United States. it was a very sad journey because I realized that some of the things that I was facing at 60, I had faced at 18. It also made me realize that I will die, whether I live to be 70 or 80. And the problem won't be fixed because it's going to take that long. What I wrote down when you asked for what it takes to be an ally, I wrote down two things: show up, speak up. The second thing I wrote, thank you. The second thing I wrote was, if you're listening right now online or here, or you're watching this later because it's going to be archived, and you say, what does it mean for me to be an ally? Oh, sorry. Okay. So I can dance, you know, I don't need music. I'll just give you a couple of quick examples, right? You know, I believe in this philosophy of find your cup to change the world. That the problem may be big, but you just need your cup of it. And then trust the process, somebody else is doing the same. So I'll give you a couple of examples. If you're a CEO out there and you're watching this and going like, what do I do? You're the CEO of a company, you manage the budget. Your budget reflects what's important to you. So therefore, if you're paying a poverty wage, fix that. You will more than likely find out that where you're paying a poverty wage is where most of the black and brown people are in your company. So you're part of the problem if you ignore that. If you look at your leadership team in all different levels and you don't see the representation of all humans, fix that. If you're a first level leader, when you're hiring people and you actually put out a posting and people show up and you see the whole human race, make sure you're hiring them. Those are simple examples, but believe it or not, is part of this problem that we live with in America. So for me, this series is my gift to Pittsford, because that's my cup. A lot of my friends that are from the city say, Kevin, why are you wasting your time here? They don't want you here. They don't want us there. Why are you wasting your time? I said, because I live here. And I really believe that wherever you live, your cup is there. And so even though I will die before feeling what I would love my daughter someday to feel in Pittsford, it's still relevant because part of being an ally or part of being in the position where you're marginalized is you have to plant seeds for trees you will never see. And the fruits of those trees you will never taste. I just hope that you leave here tonight and don't think of this as another Martin Luther King event, because it ain't. I called it Living the Dream for a reason. He left behind a prescription for us to fill. And I really don't like people saying happy birthday when they don't do the work. I really don't like people quoting him when they don't even understand the quote. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for the gift of your work. There's a reason why spoken word, creativity, theater, music is part of this, is because I firmly believe that music will bring people together that don't live together. People will come and listen to Herb Smith from all points here, to watch Rashaad's movie from all points here, and then go back to neighborhoods that are racially segregated. And my question to you is very simple. If you can enjoy the music with me, why don't you want me living next to you? Putting a Black Lives Matter on your sign, on your lawn, you need to ask yourself, does it mean that you just want me on your lawn? Because you don't want me in your schools, my neighborhood, and your community. I'll give you one last thing I'll leave you with. No matter where you are, what suburbia, and particularly here in Pittsford, demand inclusionary zoning laws of your town. If you don't know what that means, let me make it simple for you. In Pittsford today, for the last 10, 15 years, we've been building neighborhoods, 1 house per acre, 1 house per half acre. Why is that important? Because a ranch home right now of 1,400 to 1,600 square feet is $500,000. That's not just supply and demand, that's not just capitalism. It was really done to prevent African Americans from living here, but now, because they use a financial barrier, so they took down the whites only sign and to make it more too expensive for you to live here. Now it hurts young people, young families, seniors on a fixed income. We're not building enough homes, so we have a housing shortage. All of that because of hate. That's how hate works. So if you were to demand of your respective towns, we demand inclusionary zoning laws now. Developers can come in with patio homes, townhomes, apartments, and condos. So multi-generations can live in the same neighborhood. And oh, by the way, we get to know each other. So I'll leave you with that, but thank you so much for being out here tonight. Please come on Sunday, 2 to 5, February 2nd. February 3rd?
So they took down the whites only sign.
February 2nd, 3 to 5 p.m.?
Make it more.
Sorry, okay. I'll be okay.
Too expensive for you
I'm
to live
60,
here.
so like, you know,
Now
give me a little grace.
Young families.
I won't get in trouble for that because I got a couple of friends that are saying, like, oh, it's not 60,
we
it's
have a
you.
housing shortage. All of that.
So
because
anyway,
of
so
hate.
3 to 5 p.m.
That's how
on
hate
February
works.
2nd. Please
So if
come
you
out.
were to demand
It's
of your
gonna be the most
respective
integrated
towns,
service
we
in
demand
America, and that's
inclusionary
the
zoning
challenge I
laws
gave to
now.
JD. And
Developers
he's
can
done
come
it.
in
So
with
please come on
patio
out.
homes,
Love you guys,
townhomes,
and thank you for
apartments, and
coming.
condos.